What's up guys, Arnis here, and in this video, we're going to be talking about what to expect in your first Arnis competition, as well as some insights and tips I'd like to share coming from my own experiences as a martial athlete. Now, before we get started, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer that this video isn't going to be about secret techniques or strikes to add into your arsenal. You have your coaches to teach you those movements. This is going to be more about the frame of mind or the mindset that I found to be useful in my experiences competing in the different competitions that I've been to. And so yeah, let's get started. And the first thing I wanted to say, or the first expectation you should have in your first competition, is that you're probably going to lose. Now, I know that sounds mean, but hear me out. I'm not saying that you will lose, and I'm not saying that you should lose. But as with anything else, your first go at something is unlikely to be your best performance. Part of the process of learning anything is starting from scratch and slowly getting better and better over time. So it's okay to lose as long as you learn from it. Which leads me to my second point, which is that in this first competition, expect to learn so much. Competitions can be great learning opportunities. You get to see how other players approach the sport, and these are opportunities for you to gain more and more insights. And in my opinion, coming home with fresh insights, fresh learnings, fresh techniques, it's a lot more valuable than coming home with some trophy or some medal. That was supposed to land on my bed, but now here's a tip. If you want to take your preparations for the event seriously, find out the players in your bracket or your division. Find out each and every name. Find out where they live. I'm just kidding. Find out each person in your division. And when the competition starts, watch every single match. Make sure you watch the matches of your would-be opponents because that will really enhance your performance when you actually encounter them in your particular match. Now you can take it up a step further by finding a corner, keeping an eye on the competition, and shadow sparring in response to what they're doing. So what I like to do is I'd see the two people who I could possibly fight. They're both in my division. They're fighting at that moment. And I kind of assess who I think would be more likely to win. And I'd start moving around in response to what they're doing. So if they throw a strike, I might throw a block and a counterattack. If they plant their feet and I see an opening, I might initiate a strike and come into the range. So what you're doing are two things. You are training yourself to assess and size up another player, another competitor, and at the same time, you're hyper-focusing your movements for that day to specific people. And by the time you encounter those people, you might not, that's okay. By the time you encounter those people, you will have already taken some time in reading their movements, assessing their timing, assessing their distance management, and you can just get straight into it and start acting on that immediately. And that will give you a huge advantage in that match. Now let's get into more specific tips for competition. Now there are two main sparring formats that I've been accustomed to. There might be some variations, but it's pretty much these two. And these are the point system competition and the continuous striking competition. So when it comes to point system, these are usually more about clean strikes. And if you want clean strikes, my way of going about it is maintaining the long distance range of combat. From there, you're going to want to fine-tune your movements to emphasize reach, emphasize range, emphasize distance management, and so on. You want to strike from afar and then get out before your opponent even gets a chance to throw a strike back at you. Now, some tips to enhance your reach. You're going to want to hold your stick all the way at the very end, as opposed to the average practitioner who holds it about here. Now, in point system formats, you don't usually need this, what we call the puño, to throw back the strike. It depends on the format you're in, but normally with point system formats where you're emphasizing first to hit and getting points for that, those usually are not allowed. So you want to hold it all the way here. It gives you way more reach and way more range. And if compared to someone holding the stick here, you can technically hit them at a range where they can't even reach you just yet. And when it comes to being efficient in range, you also want to make sure that instead of striking just like this, upright, you want to pivot yourself to put your dominant side even more forward, and that gives you even more reach and more range. So again, hold it at the very end, pivot yourself forward, and you can even lean forward just to get that little bit more of range where you can hit your opponent before they can even hit you. So that's something that you can try working on, experimenting on, and that's what's worked for me so far. Now when it comes to continuous format sparring, these formats usually involve rating a player's superiority over the other. So rather than pausing matches to award points of who hit first or who got the clean strike, players will just keep going at it for maybe a minute or two, and then judges will rate them to see who was the better player. Now the way I like to prepare for this is to use tires or a training dummy and to just keep striking continuously for maybe 2-3 minutes. If you can confidently and comfortably barrage a training dummy for about 3 minutes without getting too tired and things like that for multiple rounds, it's going to be easy to barrage a person for just a minute. Obviously, there are other factors that come into it, but that's what we're going for. You want to out-condition your opponent. If your opponent doesn't train as hard as that or as well as that, it's going to be hard for him to match your intensity, and that will give you a huge advantage in that kind of competition. Now, assuming you have the same conditioning, what you can do to level up your performance even further is to go back to those clean strikes we were talking about, maintain that largo distance range, strike and avoid getting hit, because if you can land a few uncontested shots along with the rapid fire movements in the clinch range, it's going to be hard not to get a higher rating than your opponent, because those clean uncontested strikes are going to be a lot easier for the judges to remember, as opposed to when you guys just clash and start barraging each other with strikes. It's going to be hard to keep track of who has more strikes and so on. So that's a tip I can give when it comes to continuous sparring formats. Now, on a last note, I wanted to talk about disarming. Disarming is really cool, I agree, and I've done it in high-level competitions before. But I've never planned it nor intended it to happen or to execute it prior to the match. In fact, I don't even put much emphasis, sometimes even none, on training for disarming during my preparation for competitions. I'm mentioning this because a lot of practitioners on their first go at a competition are eager to try all the cool and fancy moves that they've been practicing and training. But the truth of the matter is, it's a lot better to stick with the basics. If you put too much focus on trying out those fancy stuff in the competition, you might accidentally see yourself getting penalties. Maybe you'd grab a stick too long and that's not allowed in the match. Or you may lose sight of more efficient opportunities to get a lead in the match. So try sticking with the basics and let opportunities for fancier displays of the art come out on their own. Don't force it to come out. It'll happen. So that's pretty much it for me. On a final note, I do want to say also that on your first competition, I hope that you enjoy it. For me, at least for me, I think that when it comes to the sport, the art, things would be really dull if we didn't enjoy what we were doing. And sometimes we fall into that trap when we're pressured by the competition or pressured by competitiveness. And so yeah, I hope you guys enjoy your first competition. Have fun, learn, do your best, and keep practicing. Whew, the trophy's fine.